David here with Figboot on Pens, back again with another video. Every once in a while, I like to put together a top 10 list of pens in my collection, and recently at the local pen club I attend, we had an interesting theme for a recent meeting, which was for everyone to bring in their most beautiful pen. Now, unfortunately, I had a conflict for that meeting and wasn't able to attend, but it got me to thinking and made me want to put together a list myself. Now, this was not a simple list to compile. My goal here was not to highlight my favorite pens or the ones that perform the best or meant the most to me. This was judging pens on looks and looks alone. And beauty is extremely subjective. So there are pens on my list that would possibly never make yours, and that's okay. If we go to a museum, you like one painting and I might like another. That doesn't mean one painting or one pen is bad or ugly. Like I said, it's a subjective personal preference. The toughest thing here was whittling this list down to only 10. There were many that I felt bad about leaving it out, so I do have a couple of honorable mentions, but tough choices had to be made. So, in order to see the top 10 most beautiful pens in my collection, please join me over here at camera 2. Okay, even though this is a top 10, I have a lot of pens to show you today. It was very difficult to trim this down to only 10, so I decided to include a few extras and a few honorable mentions. To begin with, I would be remiss if I didn't include my own pens that I had produced, mainly because I honestly feel that they're pretty beautiful. This very first one here was the Leonardo, it was the Momento Zero and it was just called the Figboot on Pens. We really didn't have a name for this particular model, but I just loved this resin, which you just might see pop up a couple of other times in here. And then we had something like this was the Momento Zero Grande, and this was the Carolina Midnight. And then we had the Franklin Christoph Model 66. This was the California Sunset. And then we had the Visconti, and this was the Voyager, and this is the Voyager Del Mar, which essentially is the same material, but just a little bit more blue. And then this was my most recent project, which was the Montegrappa Aurora Borealis. And the material here still is a bit glow in the dark, and so it does glow in the dark. And I was really pleased with the way that turned out. And then finally, I had a sneak peek of my latest project, which is the Gravitas Bifrost. Now, I won't go in too much into detail in this. I'll put an extended video when this goes on, prior to this going on sale at the beginning of April. But this is based off of Gravitas's flagship model. We have some frosted resin with some PVD trim on there, and some nice rainbow PVD on the section and on the nib, and even extending out here to the converter. And then also, I made sure that we had made the converter clear. And that was so that when, I hate it when you have a clear barrel and all you see is a black stick there. So I wanted to make it clear so that it kind of did its best to go ahead and hide that converter when the pen is in its normal use mode. But there'll be more information on this pen later, but this is what it looks like. I am a little biased here, but I think that that's a pretty beautiful looking group of pens. Okay, on to some honorable mentions, which were pens that I didn't have a hand in creating. And Wancher has been a company that has produced a number of very interesting offerings. They have their Dream Pen. I am just a real sucker for the Akatama Nuri Urushi finish. I just really like that particular finish and the coloring. That they came out with another Dream Pen, which I really like, that was on this list for quite some time before it unfortunately got bumped down to the honorable mentions. But this is the Kiei Urushi, which is an Urushi pen and then just has a leaf. And this is an actual leaf that then gets applied to this pen. It just really has a cool look to it. And then something that isn't their Dream Pen, but something I very much enjoy, is their Japan Blue, which was a partnership with Sailor. You can see that it has the Sailor logo on here, and that this is almost like a a Sailor Pro Gear, and this is some hammered metal that is on this particular pen. It's just cool to the touch, and I really enjoy the looks of it, and especially when the light hits it, how it bounces off there. And so all three of those launchers were worthy of honorable mentions. Next up on the honorable mentions is I had a couple of pens from Ryan Krusak. This one here is the Scrimshaw model, and I just think that this looks amazing. And this is moose antler, and this is artwork that's done by Ryan. Now, it's laser engraved in here, but he did the actual artwork. But I just think that this antler has aged nicely. It looks old from the moment you buy it. It's just a very interesting look to it, and I like the nautical theme to it and the kraken that's coming up and taking care of that boat. And overall, I just like how this pen kind of looked old from the day that I bought it and weathered. And I thought it fit well with the theme. But then also, I have another one of his pens that I really enjoy, which was the ebony heartwood and sapwood, to where I just love the duality of this pen, how it is kind of half black and half blonde. And this is one piece of wood, that there is a transition in this particular piece of wood to where the one section is black, and then there's the other section is more on the brownish side. And so this isn't two separate pieces. This is one piece of wood, and it's just a natural element of that particular wood. And I think it looks fantastic. Just a couple of more honorable mentions. In regard to Leonardo's, this is one of my favorite. This was called this is a Momento Zero. This is the Cometa. This was produced by, in a partnership with Stilo and Stile, and I just thought that this gave a very nice look of kind of deep space. And then in regard to a Momento Zero Grande, we had this one here, which is the Jonathan Brooks primary manipulation. This is PM1, and I just like the PM material, and then I love the size of this pen as well, but I just think that that looks very, very beautiful. And finally, since I showed you Jonathan Brooks' primary manipulation, I thought I'd show you one of his pens, which is the Earth Magic. And I mentioned this one because this was the inspiration behind, let me grab it, the material on these other pens. You can see that it's basically the same idea, except for there's less copper in these versions. And that's just because this material is going to have a lot of variance. There's some that might have more copper and more blue, and I just wanted them to be a little bit more consistent. But the moment I saw this pen, I saw actually a friend of mine had one at a pen show. And as soon as I saw it, I went to Jonathan and basically just said, please make me one just like that. And he did. And I just love this material. I think this material is one of the more stunning resins that he's created, and I absolutely think that it's beautiful. Okay, on to the top 10, and these are in no particular order. It was hard enough just to choose the 10, and I didn't want to have to select an order as well. But the first one on the list, I actually have 3 pens that are fairly similar, but they are all from the same manufacturer. That would be pen 18111, and this is the Night Sky Sakura. This is just a stunningly beautiful pen. There's a number of different elements about this cherry blossom inspired offering that I love. Just this nighttime scene with this moon is very, very cool. And then this roll stop is just amazing. It's bronze and it's cast and sculpted and then wrapped around the cap, almost like it's holding on to it like a hand. And I just love the look of it. And then the cherry blossom flowers that are in here. I've said this many times in the reviews that I've done about pen 18111, that these cherry blossoms aren't painted on. In essence, a little cavity is created, kind of like a pothole, and then it's filled with resin. And so it is all resin. And so these aren't going to come off or fade over time or anything like that because it's an all resin model. But I just think this looks amazing. And I love that pen so much that the next show that I went to, that I saw Yoshi from pen 18111 at, I had to pick up this model, which is the pink Sakura. And this is very similar, except for this is more kind of a daytime and this is more of a nighttime. And I thought that they made for a fantastic pair. But then recently, I had to pick up one more because I saw one more pen that I really love from him, and this was called the Momiji, which I believe is a Japanese elm, and that I just love this green. And then there is the leaves. Maybe it's not elm. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. But we have the leaves here on the roll stop. And so between all three of these, I thought that it made for a really nice trio of pens. And these things are, in my mind, spectacularly beautiful. Okay, next up on this list, we have an offering from Sailor. Now, I had a couple of different options I wanted to go with here I was considering. First of all, there's the Classic Pens LB5. And I was throwing this under Sailor because Sailor is a big part of manufacturing these. And in essence, this is a kind of a glorified Sailor King of Pen. But I just love this material. If you want to learn more about the LB5s, I do have a whole video on those, but I have two. There is the Koseki as well as the Tensui, and I like both of these a great deal, and I think they look fantastic. Then we have the Sailor King of Pen Pro Gear, and this is the Sky model, and that I just loved this blue material. I love the size of this pen, but just when looking at it, just from beauty standpoint of pure looks, I just loved this translucent blue. But there was one pen from Sailor that just could not be beat in my mind, and it had a little bit of help. It is the Sailor King of Pen in Ebonite, and it is my model that has been, we'll call it bedazzled by Bokumandu. That I have an entire video on this pen if you would like to learn more about this. As I mentioned, this was a Sailor King of Pen Ebonite, which was just a straight black pen. And then there is a woman in Japan who does a fantastic job of adding Raiden and Urushi applications to the pen. And I just think that it turned a pen that I really loved in its simplicity to something it is just spectacular. And just the way that she was able to align the colors so that there's a gradient going on to it. They're not just haphazardly thrown on this pen. There's her signature that she has at the bottom. Now, I didn't go ahead and apply it to the section, but because I just thought that I wanted just to keep it a little bit more clean on the section. But in regard to the cap and barrel, if I had to pick one pen in my collection, if I had to rank this, then this pen would be very close, if not at the very top of my list. I was concerned when I sent off this pen that I would be, I want to say ruining it. I just was going to be taking a pen I really loved, and I wasn't quite sure if it was going to be exactly what I wanted when I got it back, and I couldn't have been more wrong. She made the pen that much more better, and I just think that this is spectacular. Okay, next up on the list, I had mentioned that I really like the Akatamanuri Urushi finish, and I have a couple of pens from Nakaya with that finish. The first one I was considering was this. This is the Decapod Twist, and I just really like this material and really liked the Tamanuri finish and thought that looked spectacular. But the Nakaya I had to choose was the Dorsal Fin 2. Again, it has that awesome Akatamanuri finish, and I just love the fins on this particular pen. Just so unique. And these fins are built up Urushi. We've had folks that have done x-rays of this because there was questions whether or not it was other material that was built up. Maybe it was the ebonite that was formed and then it was only a small layer of Urushi, but no, it is this entire fin is built up Urushi, which is amazing. And there it is with the section, again, with the really cool color differential. And I think that between these fins and the coloring and then this gold colored nib, I just think that this is an amazing, amazing offering. Okay, coming in at number 4, I always wanted an eggshell pen just because I feel that they look fantastic and have a really unique look to them. And I was able to find one that I love, and it was from Mr. Cypress. And this was the eggshell, I believe it's the '09 model. They kind of numbered their models, but there was a number of things I loved about this. I loved that the cap was solid, and then I love how it's just kind of falling away here on the back. I think that that looks better than if the entire pen was just solid. You know, I like that there's some discoloration in there. You can see, especially in here, there's some discoloration, and that's because it reminds you that this is a natural material. These were real eggs that actually went on to this pen. And it even has on the section here some rodden flakes. And I just think that that is a nice exclamation point on this pen. I think it's better than if you would have kept this as either straight black or even put eggshell on there. That might not have been the best to put eggshell on the section there, but I think that having the flakes in there makes it look a little bit more special. And overall, I just love the looks of this pen. Coming in at number 5, we have two pens from a pen maker out of Wales, which is Rockster, and the two pens are called the Daydreamer. You know, I love both of these. I couldn't figure out which one I wanted to feature more, so I decided to feature them both. This is a maple burl material where the maple is infused with resin and then also colored, and so that's why this one is purple. Purple is not a natural color for wood, at least that I know of. Maybe there is purple woods out there, but I just think that the elements of the wood as well as just that purple color and the infusion of the resin make it look amazing. On this particular pen, we have it with a purple section, and so I think that the resin matches really well with the coloration on the rest of the pen, and I like that one so much that I picked up a blue model, which is still a Daydreamer, but just has the end pieces, again, has the blue resin section, and that material, again, with the wood that's been infused with the resin to stabilize it, just look fantastic. And that these are fairly reasonably priced as well. So I'd encourage you to check out the Rockster website or his Instagram feed to see some of his offerings, because I think that they're fantastic. Okay, now we're over the hump, heading into the back half of this list. I have always been a big fan of Arco celluloid. I just think it has an amazing look. I have it here on one pen. This is the ASC Bologna Extra Arco, and this is a large pen, and I feel that that looks fantastic on there. But the pen that I decided to include on this list is from Omas, and this would be the My Lord Arco. Again, I just love this amber finish, especially when you get that look to it right there, where it's playing in the light and it just seems to have some life to it. I do like the smaller layers that you could see when you look at this level or that layer, at that look at it. But then when you get the cross section or basically the slice on it, I just love that look, and would love to have some more Arco pens in my collection, but I very much enjoy this one. And then also I do enjoy this low profile ebonite feed, as well as this Omas nib, which is fantastic. And I like that that Arco celluloid also translates and transitions down here to the section as well. So overall, I think this is one of the most beautiful pens in my collection. Beauty can come in all shapes and sizes. Some is more spectacular and some is more refined. And that's what I would say about these next offerings, which were from Namiki. Now, first of all, I was considering a number of different Namiki pens. I do have these two pens here from their art series, which I really enjoy. This one here is the Mount Fuji and Waves, which is spectacular. And then this one here is the Golden Pheasant. And I just think the artwork on these pens are spectacular, and I really enjoy them. But in regard to classic beauty, we have something that I really feel is tough to beat, and that would be the Namiki Emperor. While this is just, in essence, a red Urushi pen, I just think that there is something classic and very beautiful about it. And then to a lesser extent, well, not a lesser extent, but we have a smaller pen. We'll say it's a baby cousin, which is the Yukari Royale, which is made from metal and then has some metal trim on it, but then also has that urushi on it. But it has a somewhat similar look, other than kind of the pseudo band that's on there. But the classic look of the Namiki Emperor, I think, is exceedingly beautiful. The nib is spectacular. That nib, this large nib, it's a number 50 nib, is just spectacular. I just think that this looks amazing, and it performs exceedingly well. In addition, I know we're talking more strictly looks, but this nib is one of my favorite in my collection. And even though it's enormous, it writes just like a normal medium nib, which is spectacular. But overall, I just love the simplistic beauty of this particular offering. Next up, we have an offering from Tasya, and I have a couple other pens that I was considering putting on this list. There was this one here, which is the Miyabi Kaga, and this is the Summer Shimmer. I just really like the patterning on here with the gold, and then this kind of reminds me almost more of like an aspen tree a little bit, kind of like a yellow aspen tree, and I just love this treatment and think it looks amazing. But the pen that I decided to go with Tasya was a no-brainer for me because it is the Northern Light. And this is actually from Palisades, which is kind of a sister brand to Tasya. But the mother of pearl and the raiden that is in here, I think look spectacular. The flake is here on the end, and I kind of like how the larger pieces then drift off into the flakes in the middle. And then even there is some flakes here on the section as well. And so overall, I think it just makes for an amazing look to it. This is one of those pens that if I bring it to a show, as soon as people see it, then their jaw kind of hits the floor, and it just has a really cool look to it. And I think that the twisting facets adds to an additional element, so that you're kind of getting a different look every time you see this pen, because you're hitting it at many different angles. And I just love it. Okay, two more pens on this list, and the first one is, I actually have three pens to share with you, but it is from a fantastic maker out of Poland, and that would be Makar Knives and Tools. And this is the Torpedo. I just love this treatment on this titanium pen, and we'll call them the divots here, just really are spectacular looking. And what happens is the pen is actually treated in the PVD treatment, or the holes are made and it's treated in the PVD, and then it is buffed out and polished out so that the only coloring that remains is inside of the divots. And then here in the section, it is transferred down to the section as well. Even though this section is a little bit on the narrow side, I do love this. I love the looks of it. Even though you might think it might feel a little uncomfortable to have all those bumps there, it does a great job of holding your grip. But in regard to looks, we have the Moco TI as far as the roll stop there. And I thought that this was just a spectacular offering. And I liked it so much that I went up and picked up another one of the Torpedo offerings. I like that Moco TI roll stop so much that I picked up an entire pen made from that. And I just love this Moco TI material. And then it has the mother of pearl around the roll stop and the same divots that are on here. And then it has the same divots that are on the section. And then there is the ink window, which is the holes around there, which I think is an interesting ink window look, as well as the blue colored nib. And I think this is an amazing package. And then something that I reviewed just recently, that Makar came out with a pocket pen as well. And you can see it has the Moco TI roll stop, and it has the different dimpling pattern, and then the dimpling is also here on the section, and I just think that that Makar creates some very interesting and unique pens, to where, you know, one of the things that's difficult for independent makers and artisans to do is to make their designs unique, so that when you look at their pens, you know who it came from. And when you see a pen from Makar Knives, you know who it came from and you recognize it. And I think that they're very, very beautiful. Okay, last spot on this list, and I needed to include a Visconti. Visconti has made a lot of very, very beautiful pens, in my opinion, over the years, and it was difficult to narrow this down to just one. This could have been just a top 10 list of Viscontis, but first off, we had the Millionaire, which I'm not a huge fan of the name, but this pen is made from marble, and the marble is just fantastic. I know they had a whole series of these with a number of different colors, but I always thought that the marbling on this pen was fantastic. I won't say marbling, it is actual marble, but the pen itself isn't overly heavy, but I think that it looks spectacular. Then we had the Divina model, and I have a couple of those. First of all, this one here was in the Desert Springs material. This is one of my favorite materials that Visconti has ever used. And I just like the coloring of the blues and the whites, and then kind of the ambers and brownish reds, I think looks spectacular. I have a couple of different pens in this material. Like I said, it's one of my favorite materials they ever produced. Then this is we'll call it the standard Divina. This has the blue as well as the silver bands going down the line. And again, I just think this looks very, very beautiful and classy. But the pen that I decided to go with from Visconti, we'll get these out of the way, was one that I've never reviewed. I've shown it on the channel, but I haven't reviewed because it was a limited edition offering that is no longer available. And maybe one of these days I'll get around to reviewing it, but it is the Blue Ripple. Now I know this looks very dark in on the camera here, but this is just a very deep blue. They did come out with one that was black, but the idea for this pen is it is supposed to resemble basically, a pebble being dropped into a quiet pond, and you can see the ripples kind of extending from where that pebble was dropped. I think the combination of the metal as well as the kind of icy resin underneath, white, just look spectacular. And this is one of my favorite Viscontis in regard to overall looks to it. It has a nice ink window in there, and that this is a vacuum filler. This has the Visconti nib. This is the gold nib. This is one of their older gold nibs, which looks fantastic. And even though personally I kind of prefer the silver colored nibs, I think the dual colored nib on this particular nib looks fantastic. But overall, this is one of my favorite Viscontis in regard to overall looks, and I just think it looks fantastic. So there was a look at my top 10 most beautiful pens in my collection. Like I mentioned, this is a very subjective list, and your mileage may vary in regard to what you feel is beautiful. Maybe let me know in the comments below which of these pens that you felt was the most beautiful in your opinion, or let me know in your collection what you feel your most beautiful offering is. Sometimes it's interesting to hear what people's tastes are, and everyone's tastes differ, and we all like different things, and it's interesting to hear what some people feel is beautiful compared to others. But I've enjoyed sharing my opinions with you today. Okay, until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.